Are you familiar with the zero waste movement? Trying to produce as little waste as possible, approaching zero? Well, I have been trying to live more minimally in a lot of different ways, but one is minimizing the amount of waste that I produce. But as I dig into zero waste more and more, I have to ask, is zero waste a lie? And it gets kind of complicated, so it might take me a little bit to unravel this. But one of the things that we always see in zero waste movement are these jars of trash. But what do they say about zero waste and how we approach it? But before getting into that, let's talk about the problem. All the waste that we generate. All countries around the globe generate problematic waste. But the United States is hands down the most wasteful country on the planet. A 2019 study found that the US, while it only accounts for 4% of the world's population, generates 12% of the planet's garbage. My fellow Americans create, on average, 4.9 pounds of trash per person per day. According to the US Environmental Protection Agency, of the nearly 300 million tons of garbage Americans generated in 2018, half was buried in landfills, with another 32% being recycled or composted. The rest, well, it was burned to generate electricity. A staggering 90% of all raw materials extracted in the US are ultimately dumped into landfills or burned in incinerators. Such materials include the heavy metals used in electronics and petroleum-derived plastics that are nearly ubiquitous in modern life. Those materials could and should be reused to make new products, but because they are destroyed, more and more natural resources are extracted every day. So I, like everyone, produce waste. Currently, I'm right in my kitchen where a lot of the waste that we generate comes from. And we try to do our best with recycling, producing the amount of packaging that we bring into our home. And for two of us, I think we do a pretty good job. We get it down to about one small trash bag a week that doesn't weigh a whole lot. We recycle as much as we can, and we even compost. We're very thankful to have composting just a few blocks away from us at our community garden that we work at, and it has really helped reduce the amount of waste that we have. Turning into beautiful plant food. Zero waste focuses on the personal responsibility, but what about the corporate responsibility? Right now, as it stands, when a company makes a product, dealing with the disposal, the waste is put on us, the individual, and society at large. Our waste problem was at the forefront of the early environmental movement in the US. The first Earth Day was held on April 22nd, 1970, and this iconic commercial, known as The Crying Indian, aired in 1971.
People start pollution, people can stop it.
The commercial helped galvanize the public around our problem with waste, but it had a big, dirty secret. The commercial was produced by Keep America Beautiful, which sounds like a great organization. That's until you learn that Keep America Beautiful is composed of the leading beverage and packaging corporations who are staunchly opposed to many environmental initiatives.
The impetus for Keep America Beautiful was to try to find a way to fight the so-called litter crisis or litter menace, but to do so in a way that would not hold those companies responsible for causing that crisis in the first place.
So, from early on, corporations have been kicking the figurative and literal can down to us, making the wasteful packaging they create our problem. I'm more than happy to do my part and encourage others to reduce the amount of waste that they create. If you're looking for some simple ways to reduce your waste, consider shopping at your local farmer's market. That's one of the best ways, as you cut down on that transportation waste and the packaging that the food comes in. Bring a reusable bag, especially little cloth produce bags, And if you get any containers from the farmers, you can return them the next time you visit. They always appreciate it. And then as you travel and move about the world, just plan ahead a little bit. Bring a reusable water bottle, maybe even a spoon and a fork. A lot of zero waste is just planning and thinking ahead. Oh, and most importantly of all, subscribe to this channel. It generates no waste, and I'll give you future tips on living a happier, healthier, more sustainable life. Speaking about waste, I absolutely hate balloons. I know, I'm a party pooper. So how about these jars? Are they a lie? Can you really reduce your waste down just to this small amount of trash? So people in the zero waste movement only try to use things that can be recycled, composted, or endlessly used. But in trying to do that, I think that they do a few things to make sure that they don't add anything into their jar. The first thing would be aspirational recycling, putting things in the recycling bin with the hopes that it's actually recyclable. But some of the stuff that they're throwing away probably isn't recyclable. Plastic bags being one of them. They're very hard to recycle in the United States if you ever get one, and you probably shouldn't even put it in because it'll muck up the machines. Another thing are receipts. If you get handed a receipt, you're now stuck with it if you prescribe to purely zero waste and adding it into your jar, because that thermal paper can't be recycled and needs to be trashed. Another thing is bending the rules. Because maybe your computer breaks and you need a new laptop. Well, yes, you can send it off to a recycling center, but really not a lot of it gets recycled, and sometimes they just get tossed anyway. So just turning a blind eye to something like that. The other day I had to replace the tube on my bicycle, and that's a big piece of waste, but riding my bicycle is better than driving a car, so overall it's good for the environment. And lastly, just not thinking about all the other waste that we create, the waste that we don't see, like going to a restaurant, for instance. Even if you use reusable cutlery and cloth napkins, there's still waste being generated in the kitchen. If you go out in the modern world and consume really anything at all, you're probably creating waste. And what about all that upstream waste? When going to a zero waste store, which are absolutely amazing, I wish that they were on every single corner. I don't know why there is so much packaging in a grocery store, but when you go into those zero waste stores, there is still waste being generated. Just because you bring in your refillable containers and fill up those things, that there's still packaging that brought it to that store. So how can we start to think about that? Because for everything that you consume, there is waste being generated far upstream. Just because you, the consumer, don't see it, doesn't mean that it isn't a problem. For every pound of garbage people generate, about 7 pounds of waste are produced upstream, which includes everything that went into the production of that product before it got to you, including the extraction of natural resources, the manufacturing, the transportation, etc. Now, does that mean that I think that the zero waste movement is a lie? No. It wouldn't make that much sense to call it a less waste movement. It just doesn't have that nice ringing tone. It is definitely an aspirational statement of something that you're trying to achieve, getting down your waste as close to zero. You're never gonna hit zero because just being alive necessitates creating waste, at least in modern society. Maybe if you go move away to the woods, you can actually achieve zero waste. And I think you should do the best that you can on an individual level, but let's not forget all of the waste that is created more upstream, those companies, holding companies accountable for the waste that they create to begin with. Because that's where the biggest bulk of the problem is. Not with us, but with someone else. So let's do both. Let's manage our own personal waste, but also champion and support organizations and companies that are doing their part as well. So zero waste is great, but it is kind of complicated. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button. Drop a comment down below if you have any other ideas on zero waste, recycling, living more minimally. I always love to hear them. And until next time, my name is Tyler Lloyd, and this is my YouTube channel all about living a happier, healthier, more sustainable life. Later.